We're live. Cool. Hi guys, it's Dean Dorr from... I'll just put that back in there now. Hi guys, Dean Dorr from Classic Magic. It's absolutely fucking freezing in here today, but I'm wearing a t-shirt just to show off my new physique. No, I'm a Slim Jim. Customers sometimes ask us why their job gets delayed. So a job comes in, it's meant to be something that takes a couple of hours or whatever, and for whatever reason, it turns out to be a little bit longer than what they expected. So what we do today is we've got a really good example on the ramp. We thought we'd show you some of the stuff that happens that can knock one job onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. In the garage, we've actually got two ramps. Shitload of space, we've got 8,000 square foot, but only actually got two ramps. And certain jobs generally make it a lot easier if they're up in the air as opposed to you trying to work on them on the floor, okay? Now this van came into us for a clutch. It's a, what, 5-hour job, 5-6 hour job, something like that?
7.4.
7.4 hours, okay. This is a book time. This is what the industry tells us is the rough average sort of time it will take to do the job on this. So it needs gearbox taken out, clutch replacing, new concentric slave, obviously refilling, rebleeding, everything else as well. So we talk you through this job. So this one here is actually taking up a ramp at the moment, and we thought we'd just show you sort of what's going on. As part of the process of actually removing the gearbox from this car, as you can see, the sort of gearbox sits up here. Now this subframe section actually needs to be removed, and the reason is because there's not enough room for the gearbox to actually clear the subframe in order for us to remove it, so we can actually get to the clutch health. So effectively what you have to do is this whole section here, which goes from front to back on the car, has to be removed. Now you can see that we've got the bolts here, which actually hold this subframe in place. Okay. Now, as typical with a van, and we tend to get a lot of these, when you try and undo these bolts, okay, these have got what's known as captive nuts on them. And what that effectively means is inside this box section here, there's a nut that's welded to the chassis. And the idea behind that is that when you bolt these back together, it pulls down on the chassis without you having to have a spanner inside it and actually hold a nut and everything else. And it just generally tends to make it a lot stronger and a lot more sort of, gives it better longevity basically. The problem you have with box sections and stuff like this is water actually collects. Like you've got little voids here, water can sit down, holes and stuff like that where water and mud and crud and stuff like that actually collects. Now what's happened on this is, on every single one of these bolts, the captive nuts have actually slipped. So although that might look like it's undoing, the captive nut that's meant to be holding it in place will not actually move, it's just spinning out. Same with all of these basically. Oh, fuck me, that one's stiff. See, that one's not going anywhere. So all of these ones here basically just spin. So Josh, if you just bring the camera around this side. No, so this is a job, oh shit, that was close. So this is a job that should take 7.5 hours, but now what we're going to have to do is actually cut into the chassis here. So we're actually going to have to remove a window from this side of the chassis. We then have to get either spanners or whatever we need to on the inside of this and try and hold these bolts while we undo them. Now the likelihood is that we're not actually going to be able to get very good access to that until the actual subframe is sort of out of the way and moved. So what we're going to have to do is cut the heads off of this to actually be able to remove the subframe so we can actually get moving on the job itself. So Josh will have to be taking the gearbox and stuff out while the subframe's out of the way. At the same time Josh is out there, I'm going to have quite a bit of time now to actually cut this section out, re-weld new nuts on the inside so that it's nice and solid and they're re-captive again. And then obviously we need to get brand new bolts which need to come from Peugeot, which need to be ordered, etc, etc. So this is a job that should have been on the ramp for 7.5 hours, 8 hours max. So we're talking about a day, comes in, gets done, goes back out again. Now because this job has been delayed because of problems like this, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and both the front ones as well, they are all the captive nuts and all of them are broken. Now we've spoken to Peugeot, we've said is there any other way around this, they've turned around to us and said no, effectively we have to cut the heads off, drop the subframe out of the way, cut the chassis, weld it all back up again, so it's an absolute pain in the arse. This 8-hour job is almost probably going to double in time because of the amount of extra time we're going to have to put on it. That means that the next job that's due to be on this ramp gets delayed. Okay, so as we understand, it's very, very frustrating for you as a customer when a car comes in for a job and it does get delayed and there is a knock-on effect. And we're just asking you to understand that this isn't always inside of our control. We do our very, very best. I said breast. We do our very, very best. Let me just mute that. But sometimes things are outside of your control and sometimes we just have to crack on and get through the jobs. And as a general rule, we try our best not to have to charge them extra hours back to our customer because it's not your fault either. So we just sort of give you a quick explanation on that. Again, the other thing could be parts as well. They've sent the wrong parts up for this van and the Vitara we've got behind us as well, so we are at the mercy of part suppliers and stuff as well. Sometimes there's slight variations within certain cars and they do just send the wrong stuff and then we have to wait for the next part to be delivered. So we just thought we'd explain that to you. Please bear with us, it's not our fault always. Sometimes it is and we put our hands up to it, but it's not always our fault. bear with us. And if you're ever at you know, a bit of a loss as to why your car's been delayed, give us a call or pop up and we'll explain the job through to you and let you know exactly why things are running a little bit behind. So we just thought we'd explain that to you. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully that will give you a bit of understanding. Cheers, guys.